Right. Hello. Happy witching hour. It is High Priestess Jamila. Hello. All right, guys. Give me a second. I am trying to get this little area straightened up. And I wanted to come and have a discussion about something, which is the narcissistic family curse of the scapegoat, which is also the black sheep, and then the golden child, which is also kind of like the savior of the family or the entertainer of the family. Okay. And I want to discuss the dynamic of playing duo roles. Okay. So you guys know that I'm a high priestess. I do believe that this dynamic is happening due to spiritual possession. Okay. I believe it's spiritual possession, whether or not it is coming from wherever it's coming from. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. It still could be, it's still spiritual possession to me. And the reason why is because it's so friggin' ruthless. It is awful. It really, really is. And I wanted to talk to you guys about ways that you can, escape that. How do you escape it? Okay. Yeah. Because everybody deserves to get away from something like that. Now, there are probably millions of videos on YouTube talking about this. And it seems like when you're black, and that may even be a part of the system, okay? Because a lot of times, what families will do is they will create a system. This is either some kind of coping mechanism for, possible abuse. Maybe there was some abuse that happened. Maybe there was drug use. Maybe there's alcohol use. Maybe you just have sadistic people in your family. Okay. So I don't think that everybody's story is going to be the same, but it is definitely a system. It is. So I totally agree with that. With it being very systematic. Um, it is devastating for a human being to suffer from that. Um, a lot of the times, there are some people that don't even realize that they are the scapegoat as well as the golden child. They don't even realize it um, until they realize it. At some point, you do realize it. And some people are playing dual roles. Yeah. And so I don't believe that it is healthy, neither physically, mentally, emotionally, to stay around a family that is doing that. I don't think that it's advisable to do that, especially if it's extremely noticeable and it causes you to constantly feel as though you are being blamed for everything that is going wrong. But then when everything is going right, you are okay. Okay. So being a scapegoat is basically, what it says. It's when somebody else makes a mistake and they blame you. I think that witches, a lot of you have been going through this since you were a baby, since you were a kid. You probably blocked out a lot of it, which is why you don't have a lot of memory of your childhood. especially if you were in extremely, if you came from a bloodline that was extremely spiritually gifted. Okay. So if you were displaying signs of being a psychic, or if you were displaying signs of being special, gifted from a young child, um, or if the family kind of knew, you know, and I think that this doesn't necessarily have to be in witchy families, but it can also be very prevalent among very religious families, to where they are sort of running from it, when in reality, if you have spiritually gifted children that are born into a family, you're supposed to shape and mold them. You're supposed to teach them how to use their gifts. Okay, you're not supposed to be abusive to them and try to do harm to them, and you know. So you're and so anyway, but I do believe that a lot of you witches have went through that and ended up with a substantial amount of wounds, because a lot of, believe it or not, there are a lot of people that embrace their gifts, but then again, there are a lot of people that hate them. There are some people that being normal is so important to them. It's like super duper important. So, we see so many people embracing their spiritual gifts that we forget that there are people that are spiritually gifted that hate themselves and hate their gifts. And I think that that may have happened with a lot of you guys. And I am spiritually speaking, but I also believe that um, in most cases, I believe that in most cases, I believe everything seems to be brought about by spirit. Okay. Or, I do. I do. Do I feel in narcissism is a spiritual thing? It really is. And so a lot of you guys, sometimes in your family, it doesn't kick into gear until later on in life. This is when you start to break away and you start to branch off, and you may want to relocate, you may want to travel, you may want to, and that is when there is a spirit, and I think it's mainly the spirit of fear. That spirit of fear is used on you. Oh, you shouldn't leave your family, and you should stay, and and even if you don't like the area that you're in, they're very controlling. Okay, because God forbid, if you leave, they have nobody to blame for their problems. It instantly kicks in when you escape. So a lot of people think, oh, let me just go. Mm-mm. A lot of the times after you leave, that's when it really gets bad, and you start to see exactly where you and why you left. And a lot of y'all, they keep you with so much going on that you can't even really think until you get away. Okay. So now you also at the same time play the role of the savior and the protector. Because for some reason, when you walked away, all of a sudden, everything just started falling apart for them. Or, they fell apart. Or, and so for years and years and years, you are blamed. If you have that kind of situation going on, please believe that everything and everybody in your life, for the most part, was a setup. And it's sad, but it's the truth. It's almost like a movie. It's like a family movie, into where they have a director, they have a writer. It's so scripted and fake. It's literally like the Truman Show. Very, very traumatic. Do they care? No, they're possessed. They don't care. That's a sign that they are possessed, is the fact that they don't care. They will lie to you in your face, even when you confront them with it. Even when you confront them with it and you try to speak to them about it, they are always going to make you feel as though you're mentally ill or something. But is it a coincidence that they began family gang stalking after you left? No, it's not. My suggestion, when you have that situation going on, don't just move an hour away. No, because if you're just an hour away, then they can still blame you for things that have went wrong. Why would they want to, believe that somebody that's still close to them, or if they admit that something had happened that would violate or interrupt this perfect world that they're trying to create? And it happened to me, actually. And I gotta tell y'all this. Um, when I had moved from Missouri to Lawrence, Kansas, and I had fell out with somebody that is obviously like in on it, like it's so weird. And I wasn't aware for years. They have these weird secret meetings. It's very bizarre. These people are so bizarre. But something had happened to where the lug nuts were loose on her car. I was an hour away with my children, breastfeeding my baby, like literally at home. At the same time, her baby daddy had just got out of jail. And he was always trying to kill her. She couldn't see that it was him. She blamed it on me. I'm an hour away. Or was I in Georgia by then? No, I was still an hour away. But the first 2 years after I had moved to Lawrence, Kansas, I had so much anxiety. There was no way that I would be able to jump on the highway and do that and come right back. I wasn't able to heal from the PTSD and the anxiety until I literally drove to Georgia. So I was in Kansas. All of this was stated publicly as well. And I remember stating, well, of course, I denied it because I didn't do it. Why would I want to do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's sick. And I remember stating, well, there's security cameras outside of my house. I hadn't left the house all weekend or whenever it was because I work from home. So it could have easily been proven that it wasn't me, especially with cell phone pings and everything. And then I had, then my vehicle had a GPS tracker on it as well. So it would totally be able, but this is the kind of stuff that they do. And then I realized at that point that I had always been her scapegoat. If she needed an excuse, she could blame it on me. I thought we were friends. I thought we were best friends. Now, then I realized, I said, wow. So that's when I started making the decision to move further away from all of it. Anyway, I just wanted to give y'all that quick example. Um, when you are the entertainment for the family or the golden child, this is when a lot of you guys that are the golden child, you have a natural sense of humor. People are naturally drawn to you. You're probably a healer. And so, what the reason why they want to keep you close is because you heal them, you make them feel better. So it's a codependency. They refuse to learn how to self-heal. So if you're no longer there for them to have physical access to you, right? Then they feel a void without your presence there. So some of y'all, most of y'all definitely play duo roles. It's a duality to where you have to play the role that they need at that time. Do they really actually sit down and discuss this game plan? No, they don't. It's usually happening naturally. It's usually happening through their subconscious. And then especially if you're a nice person. So that's how you get the dynamic of being there for people for years, being nice to them. And the moment you break free of that and you stick up for yourself and and when they, because they usually do deteriorate. Yeah, you do. You have to play for yourself. Um, it usually does deteriorate and it gets worse and it becomes painfully obvious that this is what you're basically being used for. You're a tool. You almost feel like a slave. And sometimes when you get away, they'll stalk you. A lot of y'all are factually being stalked. They have people either watching you or monitoring you or something. They're usually always making up this false personality or this false person surrounding you. They're never to blame. They always have an excuse for everything. A normal family, or even a normal person, is going to be able to admit when they've done something wrong. Usually, a lot of you scapegoats and golden childs are some of the best people in the world because you can admit when you're wrong. If you lost your temper or if you made a mistake, they never do. You can be across the room and a glass fall off the counter or the table and it's not their fault. Oh, look at what you did. It's But then when things get serious, so they're either jokingly scapegoating on you or when times get rough and when horrible things happen, they're scapegoating on you as well. This can have an extremely devastating effect on a person because you are overly burdened And it's like you don't exist. It's like you're not human. It's totally dehumanizing. You know, it's totally dehumanizing. So, um, most people that have dealt with the situation, and what is very what's really bad about it is that this can either be done in with your this is happening within your immediate family, or it may extend to the rest of the family, depending on if there's brothers, sisters, cousins, and it just seems like they all kind of play this game. So most people just want no contact because you've been taking the blame for their mistakes for so long, and then being used as like an energetic sacrifice for so long, that you get to a point where you need to heal yourself. You try to be polite about it because you don't want to leave on a bad note. Many of you do. You try to be nice about it. I'm leaving. I'm relocating. What they usually do is attack you. And, they probably were not supportive of you to begin with, because I feel that most families that are like this, don't really have the capability of financial support. And then you're usually dealing with other family dynamics, like jealous siblings, jealous cousins. And so this is typically carried out by the elders and the agents and the ops of the family for the elders. It is a horrible existence. And even though they will have no memory of it, they will have no memory of it, no recollection. This is why I feel that it is possession by their own bad spirits, by their own needs, and our perversions. Some of you guys, it did involve some kind of sexual abuse as well. And it's like they want you to be the family kick toy and gesture at the same time. It's very demeaning, even when it's subtle. Even when it's subtle, even when it's being passed around like a joke, like it's being passed off as a joke, like, oh, I was just joking with you, you know. Um, but those jokes can be very triggering because they probably have been doing the same thing for years. This has been wounding you for years. This has been wounding you for years. Typically, when you come from that family dynamic, first of all, they really have no understanding of it. It's kind of like it just kind of, goes over their heads, and they're just like, that's not true. They're usually in denial of it. And even because many of you guys have tried to talk to them about it, you know what they'll do, depending on their mood, it's going to either lead to a knockdown, drag out argument to where everybody is attacking you, or they may speak more sensibly and say, okay, They'll apologize. They'll give you a lot of fake love, false love, and they'll say that they'll never do it again. But they always end up doing it again. So it's really no different from an abusive relationship, especially, I mean, most women as well as men that grew up with that dynamic or that family system of corruption is what I call it, not dysfunction, it's corruption. You usually do end up being more tolerant of abusive partners. You usually do end up in an abusive relationship because it's just like an abusive relationship. They hurt you, they humiliate you, they make a fool out of you, and then they apologize and they say they'll never do it again. But then they almost always end up doing it again. So then a lot of you guys develop trust issues. And trust issues lead to weight fluctuations, heart problems, dental problems. It leads to a lot of stuff. It does. Depression, anxiety. And, if you are a very quiet person, a very docile person, society is usually a little bit more accepting of you. But if you are somebody that is very vocal about it, very upfront, people typically kind of hate you because you're supposed to be programmed. You're not supposed to be outspoken. They want you to be nice to them even though they're not being nice to you, even though they're talking about you behind your back. You're supposed to give them loyalty and respect that they refuse to give to you. Many of you guys, when you walk away, they are manifesting within sometimes new people that you meet, but a lot of times they will contact people and pretty much make sure that the person is going along with the program. You got people out there that will take advantage of that. Probably people that don't really have a have their life together. So you find yourself feeling as though you're getting taken advantage of. Now everybody is not like that. If I knew a person was treated like that, I would treat them like a human being. You know what I'm saying? But there are a lot of people that are ops. They're opportunists. Oh, I can see that this person comes from this dynamic. Okay. So this is my opportunity. That's what an op is. This is my opportunity to get something off because it's a sadistic type of thing. So sadistic people, and this will make it worse because sadistic people, your family may not be sadistic. They just may be very, you know, dysfunctional. But it tends to make you cross paths with some pretty sadistic people that, that think, oh, you can be my kick toy. You're used to it anyway. When in reality, they're not understanding that at some point in your adulthood, you did have a roof over your head, you had your own place, and you barely even saw those people. But they figured, because it gets worse the older that you get. Because the older that you get, the more mature that you get, the more independent you become. And they start seeing you less and less. They call it love, but I call it love hate. They're making a spectacle of you, and it never changes. I believe that sometimes certain people can change, but I think it takes time and patience. But family that is like that, they typically can't change. By the time they change, you're in your 60s or 70s feeling like you're half dead. Most people that do feel that they played that dual role of the scapegoat and the golden child, they would rather be alone. They enjoy their peace and their alone time away from that. They're not missing that situation at all. But to the codependent family, especially as they start to get older, they are missing you. But why do they miss you? They miss you because they don't have their scapegoat. And you can tell because a person that's like that, they do have a specific personality type. And this is the personality type that even though you're grown, they are scolding you 1 second and the next second they are praising you just out of the blue. It's like dealing with a bipolar person. It's like dealing with Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or Mrs. Jekyll, Mrs. Hyde. It's literally like that. It's very bizarre. It's very scary. Um, I think that one thing that y'all need to know is that when a grandparent passes away, this is when things can get a whole lot worse. Especially if you were the favorite of the grandparent and the grandparent doted on you a lot. Um, which they say that people shouldn't have favorites, but I think that it's not just to say, oh, this is my favorite. I just think that it's kind of like that dynamic. And so as soon as that person is gone who was almost like a guardian to you, their fangs come out. And they either turn into completely totally different people, very clownish, or either very zombie like. It's very bizarre. And they will claim that it is because they are grieving. And this is very common amongst you guys that deal with a narcissistic mother and father. And then there's brothers and sisters and siblings. And then there's your grandmother that, really, really was the voice of reason. Once they got that person out of the way, now the abuse turns, it gets worse because that is abuse. Not allowing someone to grow up is abuse. Trying to keep somebody in a certain place for the rest of their life is abuse. Once you reach adulthood, and you've grown all the way, because by the time what you're in your 30s, you through growing. But if that dynamic still exists, you're going to have a hard time with what growth. So they will stunt your growth in life completely because they're constantly trying to keep you in a position where you are kind of like a child or a pet or a cat or a dog. You're not actually a person that has desires and aspirations. You're just supposed to play that role and that's it. It feels like you're suffocating. Let's add empathism with it, and you've got hell on earth. Because they have that connection, they feel as though they can tap in whenever they want. And really, they can, and without even talking to you. So a lot of times, because I deal with a lot of clients that have that issue, they come from spiritual families that are attacking them spiritually, psychic attacking them. You can sense when they're talking about you, you can feel it. It's usually very disparaging. It's not ever anything positive. Their thoughts and their words about you, they're usually always cursing you, saying bad things are going to happen to you. You're picking up on that etherically, and just in your mind, you're picking up on that. So that's why you have to have your protection, because a lot of y'all, when y'all get these panic attacks out of the blue, and see, that's a ritual. When they come together and it's two or three of them and they love them three-way phones, when they get on that horn with each other and they get to talking and they have nothing positive to say, they are giving you spiritually every bad thing possible, every negative thing that could possibly happen, that either could be done to you or that you could do. Like, for example, I'm going to give y'all an excellent example. Let's say you were a public figure and you had some people, and I want y'all to really listen to this. Let's say you were a public figure, or either, okay, let's make it more practical. Let's say that you were on a job and they knew where you worked at, and you actually were still telling them people your business and telling them what you were dealing with and going through, and they were either able to witness it or sense it or pick up on it somehow. When you're in that situation, instead of them saying, oh, I know that my niece or my cousin or my sister, I know she ain't tripping off of that. I know she ain't worrying about that. They're like, oh my God, she must be tripping. Like, oh my God, this, wow, wow. Oh my God, she's going to kill those people. Oh my God, those people are going to kill her. Oh my God, they're going to destroy her. Oh my God, did you see what they did? Oh my God. They have no faith in you. You could be a very strong and capable person, capable of dealing with this situation, but they are speaking weakness into the spirit. These people are totally your enemy. I'm just letting you know, they don't want you to be able to deal with the outside world without some kind of trauma or tragedy. And they talk a lot. They're constantly talking, and thinking. It's very strange, you know. And when you come into your witchy powers, and you still have that going on, and they're still speaking against you, now they really can blame their problems on you, because the words that they speak are curses to you, whether or not you hear them or not. You can sense it and pick up on it. So what you're doing, and this is the reason why, and that's why I think that witchcraft is perfect. It's a perfect healing system. Let's talk about wards. When you're warding something off, okay, so that it doesn't touch you. So to ward something would mean to stop it from reaching you. Okay. So it just kind of goes back and forth. It just goes back to them. It just goes back to them. They say something negative about you. Next thing you know, their roof is caving in or something. I think everybody should learn at some point that loose lips always sink ships. People need to be careful about what they say about other people. Even when you're, even when it's not family, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. Where do y'all think that saying comes from? You want to stay away from people that you constantly feel the need to say those words. And so that's why you have to check yourself. If a person causes you to create negative karma, and it's crazy because you almost end up sharing that karma. A person that's out of control, a person that just, it's like a machine or something. It's very bizarre. And so it is the best thing to do so that you can clear your head, is to kind of say, okay, I don't have to deal with this person. I'm going to step away, because everybody is not perfect. You can't always be perfect all the time. So that's why it's important to, to not let people get to you like that. You know what I'm saying? And choose your battles. Hello, 1EQ. Good morning. So it's a very, very toxic thing. It really is. And you do have to give yourself time to heal. Because if you don't ever give yourself time to heal, your nervous system is going to be shot. I mean, to the point where you barely be able to function in life. Your immune system will be lowered because you're constantly fighting this battle. That's one of the reasons why us witches make bottles, because, um, those bottles can either trap or transmute that energy, or send back anything that you can't transmute. Just think about it. People like that are probably possessed. I don't, you know, can you imagine constantly having to go back and forth with them? Oh my God. You wouldn't have a voice. Your voice would be very hoarse. Your throat would be sore. You would literally, like, your neck would probably feel stiff and just, because you should have a certain, like, a person has to be able to sit down and breathe. And even though when you're talking, you're breathing, I'm talking about having some time to just relax. Just constantly going back and forth with somebody like that is very unhealthy. And we can sit up here and say, oh, well, a person gets used to it. A person doesn't get used to it. That's a lie. So a lot of people think, oh, well, you should be used to that. No, I'm not used to that. In fact, a lot of you guys probably knew how to sort of disassociate from the situation, at that moment where things were happening, or when you got to be a certain age, you could find some kind of way to get away for a couple of days and give your mind a rest, because they're constantly, they may take a few days rest, but depending on if there's alcoholism, maybe drug addiction, then those demons are going to come back in, those spirits are going to come back in. Um, they never consecrate the alcohol. You can cut down on a lot of stuff by consecrating alcohol, because alcohol has spirits in it. You just never know, though. It could be coming directly from them, though. But, like, it's like when they start drinking, then they're all usually looking at you. And then they're also sending people into your life with a purpose. It's like a setup. They're sending people into your life. And they're sending these people so that they can set you up for the fall, you know, so that they can all sit around and not give you understanding, but to sit around and criticize you, even though it may not be a situation where you should be criticized. Do they love you? Of course not. They don't. And why should you have to be embarrassed about that? You have an entire family out there that is going to give you the love as well as receive your love and actually care about you. Because that's not love. That's using somebody completely. You're just using the person. They're a tool to you. Will they ever understand that? Probably not. Most of y'all own family owe y'all reparations. You've been through so much. And it's so very real that there have been people that have recorded conversations to prove it. It's like an emotional abuse, and emotional abuse is going to affect what? It's going to affect the heart chakra. So a lot of times people that come from that environment, they are so in need of love because the love that they have been receiving for years was fake love. Even if you had an elder that loved on you, you were receiving so much fake love from the rest of those people that it may have canceled that out. And at that point, it's okay for you to be selfish and say, I have to take care of me right now. Because a lot of you guys aren't going to start walking away until you're in your 30s, usually, typically. And that's when you're not so resilient anymore. That's when you literally feel like your heart is getting ready to explode because they've created so much inflammation. It's a very, very scary experience. And they chose you. There may be something special about you. Maybe you may look like the family, but there may be unique things about you, unique qualities, and they chose you. You were the chosen one. And dealing with them usually on any capacity brings back those old ghosts. And it's very hurtful because you're not included. They seem to have this, and sometimes it may be dysfunctional. Sometimes it may be awful and terribly dysfunctional to where it may be some stuff going on. I ain't gonna mention it. You wouldn't want to be included in that, but you're not included in the support system. So you never really had a support system. Like, for example, if you needed some help, you know, they shockingly they don't have it. If somebody else in the family needs some help, they're gonna band together and help that person. But you don't matter. So I'd say stay away from them. You know, you don't halfway love somebody. I don't believe that your family should love you halfway. They need to love you all the way. If they can't love you the whole way, the long way, and like real love, not dysfunctional love, you owe it to yourself to walk away and take the freedom. There's so many things to do in this world, especially if you have children. You want to get the children away from that situation because they are usually suffering at the hands of that. The children will usually be encouraged to disrespect you sometimes. It's really, really bad. And it is spiritual, in my humble opinion. I believe it's spiritual because, I mean, for them to stick to a script that long is downright pathological. I mean, they are usually on point, and this is considered to be a stronghold. Now, there's some of you guys that are dealing with the dynamic of meditations and even witchcraft being used against you on the low, them doing ritual on the low. Okay. And then there's the misogyny. Yeah. I think that you should, and you know what? It's so subtle. And see, that's the thing of it is that they think that they're not that bad because they haven't beaten you up or killed you. One EQ. Like they're like, they think that because it's not violent, that it's okay. Or you're just too sensitive. And, no matter what you say to them, they're never going to understand. It's just a waste of your time. Why not just get out there and live life? You know, it's a waste of your time. It really is. Yeah, I know one EQ. I know, sweetie. And that's when it's really bad. Yeah. So, and women, I think women suffer the most. They do, but men can suffer from that too. But women actually suffer the most because of the sexism in the world, and then also you may have male elders in your family that they sick. They look at it as protection. Abusing you is protection. Making you afraid of the world, period, or afraid of yourself or afraid of life. That's protection. So you might as well, like, when you hear about why did the chicken cross the road, they just want you to never cross the road. And, you know, it's bad. And, and they will go through great lengths, and it's there. It's not even worth asking them about it, because even convincing you that it's not the truth is a part of the game. It gives them a chance to put on and to act for you and to manipulate you. So, get out while you can. Okay. That's what I say, because it's not worth it. And keep your kids away from that stuff too, you know. because they will mistreat your kids, and but at the same time, see, this is what makes it confusing. At the same time, very harsh judgment. So it's very difficult, especially those of you that come from spiritual families. And it's happening all the time in the church, even church members. People always try to make it seem like people that go to church, they're just a psychic. It's a psychic thing, to the point where you do want to just block them out completely. And you can do that. That's what I would do, because you're never going to get anything positive from that situation. It's always going to be something negative. It's always going to be something disparaging, and it never gets better. And that doesn't mean that it's everybody in the family, though. That's the one thing, that you have to also look at, is that, they'll probably be doing that to several members of the family. So it's not that it's everybody, it's just certain principal people that are constantly doing that. But they can and they will have a negative impact on your life, especially women. Y'all try so hard. You try and you try every single day, and you feel like you just working for nothing. You feel like you just can't get ahead, you know? Of course, they don't want you in a relationship. No. If you're in a relationship, then you can't give them the attention that they want. They don't want you to have children. If you have children, they usually cannot stand your children. They're not going to tell you that to your face, but they usually have a deep hatred for your children, because you can't play the scapegoat and the golden child duality anymore for them. So they have a real problem with your children. So, and of course, they're not going to tell you. They're not, but you better watch them, because they will spiritually attack your children too. Or they'll try to turn you against your children, or your children against you. I wonder if they have any movies that are like that, that are based upon that subject. I'll look it up and let y'all know if they do. I'm gonna get out of here, y'all. I just wanted to come and speak about that, so that y'all would understand that there are people out there that do understand your situation and will not take advantage of you. But you got to understand that you're dealing with a curse. You're dealing with a family curse. And they will curse you. They will go and talk about you like a dog to others. I mean, like you are the worst person in the world. And you ain't even talked to them. Especially if you beat them at a spiritual war. Stop trying to have it both ways. I have clients that are dealing with exactly what I just talked about, and you keep holding on to these people Unless they are willing and they are admitting to their mistakes, they can't be exorcised of those demons and spirits. So you can't continue to give your trust to them because they're always going to violate your trust. And how does a person violate your trust? Either by talking about, I mean, you can be the strongest, most capable person, and they're talking about you as if you were just weak and stupid. They love to call you stupid. They love to, you know, insult your mental capacity. If you doing spiritual warfare with them, they and some people literally are having to defend themselves against their own family members throwing curses at them. When you send the curse back, now that's when they got to get on the horn. They got to talk about you. Not once during that process did they ever stop to think, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I shouldn't have put that energy out there in the universe for that person to hear it and pick up on it. Because I believe that our brains are like radio conductors. Is that the correct word for it? Our brains are like transmitters. You know what I'm saying? Like we can hear stuff. And some of y'all have gotten confirmation. Some of y'all have felt it, sensed it, picked up on it. You just wanted a quiet evening at home where you eat dinner, watch a movie, and you're sitting there and you just don't feel right in your spirit. You're like, what is it? And so something tells you to call, and you call, and somebody that's there wanted you to know that they was talking about you, so they pick up and you can hear them talking about you. Some of y'all have had that experience. And it will kind of, if you don't have that experience, it will kind of drive you nuts if you don't get the confirmation. But even if you don't get the confirmation, always trust your intuition because they're basically showing and telling you. You know, when you tell them that there's something that you want or something that you need, for your emotional and fulfillment or for your fulfillment in life. They are very passive about it. They're just very blasé about it. It's not a wrinkle in their forehead. They're just not, they're not just like, okay, and they never offer you help to get it. Usually what the next step for a person is possibly to either, if they can't help you get it, they're going to offer you advice to get it, and not in a demeaning way like you're too stupid to understand. They're going to say, well, what can I do to help you do that? Can I help you with something? Because I got a little bit of extra, I can give it to you. That's what family is supposed to be about. What they do is they leave you hanging. They leave you and they abandon you in every way. But you know what? Let that be your strength, but don't rest on it and rely on it. And try not to be too angry. And, say the Lord's Prayer. God grant me the serenity. And, I don't know the whole thing by heart because you can't change that. You can only change your reaction and the way that it affects you. You cannot change them. Stop trying. You're going to run yourself into the ground. Now, some of y'all, they do have you programmed for self destruction, and that's really bad. But you got to break the mold. You got to break up out of that self-destructiveness. And you have to feel like you're worth more than that. Like you can do better than that. Because then you become their puppet. They are now at that point controlling your emotions, you know? So put up your spiritual protection and make sure that you do your warding. That's really the key, especially some of you guys that have that's pretty much what a generational curse removal is. But sometimes it's a long-term struggle because there are some of you guys that may have generational curses that possibly are not like current generation. If it's current generation, then you're in for a battle. And it doesn't have to be a strenuous battle, it can be a very quiet battle. It can be, now sometimes you do have to cry it out. You have to cry it out. You have to scream into the pillow, depending on what you went through. But, you want to get yourself to the point where you have that quiet strength and you learn how to channel those emotions. And see, channeling, I believe that, where does that come from? I got my little, what did I do with that? I got like a little thing. Think channeling comes from, is it the heart chakra or the crown? One of the chakras, y'all can look it up, is responsible for channeling energy, because you have to be able to channel that energy. You can't just, otherwise you'll pop a blood vessel. You will have a stroke or a heart attack. You know what I'm saying? It's very difficult, that energy. And they're so closely tied. And then more than likely, some of them may have personal items of yours, you know, but there's something that you can do about that as well. Okay. That's why I always tell y'all learning the craft is really important, because there's those little tiny rituals that you need to do. Okay, you have a personal item of mine. How about I cast something that says that any personal item of mine cannot be used to access my energy or to access me energetically or to curse me? Simple. Bind it and keep it moving, because you have a life to live. And it's so sad because and you know what, you can't want to be a part of that. If you want to be a part of that, I don't know, I wouldn't want to be a part of something like that. And anyway, and don't be embarrassed about it, just live life. Try not to think about it. People will try to get you to think about it, your dysfunctional family. But you know what, you broke that cycle, didn't you? So be proud of yourself that you broke that cycle, that you recognized it was a problem and you got away from it. Or either you're in the process of breaking that cycle completely. All right. Okay, guys. Y'all have a good one. What is today? Today is, was it? It's, I think it's Tuesday. I think, yeah, today is Tuesday. Y'all have a happy Tuesday. Okay. All right. Now I'm still doing the generational curse removals. Okay. You know, they done went up in price. They had to. Okay. I can't stay the same price for forever. But it's worth it because you get a lot of extra stuff. You find yourself, even though you may struggle sometimes, things do get better. And you know what? Honestly, some of y'all, like if there's some kind of family heirloom or, you know, some kind of family plot that might be 30 or $50,000 or something. I wouldn't say that you had to just walk away from it, but I would say seek spiritual counseling, seek spiritual help. If it's like maybe a house that you could be dealing with or something, you know what I'm saying? And you're gonna get some money from it. Y'all need to neutralize and cleanse that money because that money has family blood on it. It's blood money. Okay. And you want to neutralize that money. You really want to cleanse that money. Okay. And have your spiritual support system because they're going to set it up to where you have to deal with them with that. You have to talk to them. You have to, connect with them. It has to be a meeting of the minds and stuff, and they don't really want to share nothing with you, honestly, especially with the country being in recession back and forth and stuff, and. So if it's worth it, you know, otherwise go out there and make new money. You ever hear about new money? It's some people that have walked away from those situations and started making 150,000 a year, 200 grand a year. They have. They've walked away and became very wealthy. That's called new money. Okay. Avon, man. Salute to you too. Okay, guys, I gotta go because it's 4:18 in the morning and I done got sleepy. See y'all later. Okay, blessings to y'all. Bye bye.